Welcome back to the Unprofessional Footballer Podcast, episode 11 now. We've had a bit of a long break, extended after Gianluca's podcast, but we're back and I'm bringing back a great guest. We are here with a player who's had 217 games in the Eredivisie in Holland. Over the course of his career, 342 games, 52 goals, 46 assists. We've got Danny Holla. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Danny, like I said, has had quite a long career in football. How old are you now, Danny?
34.
34.
Yes.
Have you called it quits now, or are you in that in-between phase where you're still deciding?
I am in that in-between, actually. Because you can only stop once, and
Exactly.
I think I'm going to decide this winter what I'm going to do. Yes.
So, leaving the door open maybe in January for one final move. Otherwise, the decision might come to hang up the boots for good.
Yes. I think because now I didn't play for this last couple of months, and I think if I'm going to wait for another year, it's not going to work again. So I need to make my decision.
Football's one of those careers where a break can really, you feel it. When you try and come back from taking a year off, it doesn't feel the same. No. It takes a long time to try and accustimize yourself back to playing every single day.
Yes.
The daily demands of football is very tough on the body.
But it is a difficult decision because if you say you stop, it's
Exactly.
difficult to come back. So that's why I'm waiting a little bit and gonna make my decision in a couple of months.
What age did you start playing football as a kid?
As a kid, I think I was 4.
So that's nearly 30 years now in football. To be involved in football for 30 years, it becomes ingrained.
I know. And then especially where I grew up in Holland, even when I was, I think, 8 or 10 or something, I trained already 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow.
Yes, I had a lot of hours on the pitch.
What area of Holland did you grow up in?
Close to Amsterdam.
Okay.
A place called Almere. Started there in the youth academy with a local team, and then actually I moved to a team what is now in the second league of Holland. But at that time they were not professional, but they already had like a professional structure. Okay. So they had to scout you. You cannot come there and just play. So then after I think 3 or 4 years with the local team, I moved to that team.
So Holland is obviously regarded in the world as like the hub of youth football. I think every country respects the youth systems of Holland, knowing that they really know how to develop top quality players across the entire country. Yeah. And if you look across the top 5 European leagues in football, it's just flooded with talent that's come out of the Dutch academies.
The structure of the youth academies are good. Even if you go to a local amateur club, they have 10, 12 pitches. Everyone is training with his own team. What I'm saying, 3, 4 times a week at least some training. So like the whole structure of football is good in Holland.
And growing up, do they kind of have that emphasis on enjoyment in football, or from a young age is it very much this is your career path now and we're going to kind of treat you as a professional? And
No, not really. I think it started with everyone like having fun, playing on the streets and want to join a team. But of course, if let's say you go to the youth academy of a professional football team, it's a different world. And that is quite a tough time, because even I was at this. They are now in the second league team, but they were already very professional. And then every 6 months you get like your, how do you call it?
A review.
Yes, a review of everything and what you had to do better, what was
really
going well.
They review every 6 months?
Yes, and then even every year there was like, you need to sit with them. And then I saw some kids crying and leaving because they were not allowed to stay. And then you're speaking about kids 8, 10 years old.
8, 10 years old being cut just ruthlessly like that. Wow. How much kind of time do they give you to adjust to the let's say they give you a review, you need to improve on this, and this area. How long do they give you to try and make that improvement?
It depends on the player, because sometimes a player is a bit too small and they need to grow. And but there were players that came in a year before and they had to leave a year after. So it's let's say tough. It's tough.
A tough environment for a kid to go
But I
through.
never felt it like that,
No.
because I was used to playing like that.
I guess once you kind of grow up in that system, it becomes normal.
Yes.
You don't really take it personally anymore. Like you said, there's so many academies and teams to go to. I'm sure the players that are let go from one academy can probably make the jump to another one quite swiftly.
So that's the good thing, because there are so many, like even the amateur teams, I call them now, the local teams, their structure is good as well. And you've seen many players, they had to leave a professional team in the youth academies. They went to a local team, did well again, and went to another academy.
I know in England it's very similar. You see a lot of the smaller teams will look to see the release list of the big clubs, hoover all of the talent up, and they end up making their way back into the top level academies by the end. It's a good experience to go through, I think, as a kid. It prepares you for later on in life for football.
Yes, for sure.
Because I'm sure you've probably, in your 20-year career as a pro, seen that side of football where it can be a bit cutthroat when it comes to contract negotiations, re-signing, and jumping team to team on transfer deals. Tell me about when you kind of realised you were on the path to becoming a professional footballer. What age did you really start to have that switch flick in your head?
I think maybe when I was 12 or something, it started a bit. Then when I was 14, I moved to a professional youth academy, FC Groningen. And at that time, there were 3 other youth academies from professional teams. They wanted to have me. So I think when I was 14, I made that move. And then it started, actually. And then, of course, there are so many players in the youth academy, so you still need to have that long way. But that was the start. Let's say that was the start of being like, okay, now it's getting serious.
And how long did you spend at Groningen's youth academy?
Played there 4 years, and then, or actually 3. And after 3 years, I already moved to the first team.
So
when I was 17.
Yes, 17.
Yeah.
Wow. And I've had a look at some of the players that were obviously in and around the academy at that time. We've got some very big names now in top football.
Yeah.
The likes of, it was Virgil van Dijk, Luis Suarez was also in and around the first team at that time. What was it like playing with players of that ability? Did you know they were on their way to becoming world superstars?
Actually, no. A lot of people asking me these questions, could you already see that they were good? But for example, Virgil van Dijk, when I was in the first team, he was in the second team.
Okay.
And he just made that move from another professional team. Then he went to Groningen and he didn't play in the second team. He was sitting on the bench first couple of months. And then he was starting playing with the second team, and then he was coming close to the first team, trained with us, and after that you could see, okay, he has potential.
Yeah.
But let's say that first 6 months I didn't see that. But then he was starting regularly in the first team, and from that time you could see, okay, he has big potential.
I think it's an important message for young players to remain patient in the academy systems. You see some players get frustrated when they're not given that opportunity maybe straight away, but the development of a footballer can be slow sometimes. You see stories of players not really making their breakthrough until they're 23, 25, then their career skyrockets, and it's just having that patience at the beginning.
I can understand it as well, because sometimes you see other players, they can start or something, or they can already, I had that feeling as well. And then it was me only being 16. And I already saw some players training with the first team. I was like, okay, when is my chance coming, And if I look back at now, and I was still a kid, why did I already want to? But it's also, it is also a good thing, but you still need to be patient.
Exactly, a little bit of patience, whilst having that ambition still to break through and make that jump.
Yeah.
So when you made it into the first team of Groningen at 17, how many years did you spend in the first team there?
When I was 17, I trained a lot with them.
Mm-hmm.
I still played my games in the second team.
Okay, yeah.
I think I made my debut when I was 18.
18, okay.
But at that time, they were not young players. I think it was just me and Suarez.
Okay.
We were both and the same age, and the rest was 24, 25 or older. So at that time, it was not that easy to
make that jump
to the first team. Then I think when I was 18 and I made my debut, after that I played around 6-7 games that season. And I knew the season after I was not going to start because there was a very good player on my position. So I went on loan to a second league team.
Yeah.
And actually that was a really good experience. Played every game. And then in the winter break, Groningen sold that player on my position to Ajax.
Okay.
And
that freed up the space for
yes, and then they took
through.
me back in the winter, and so from that time it was going fast, and I was actually playing all the time. I think in total I had 4 or 5 seasons.
4 or 5
yeah,
seasons.
something like that.
And
first team.
What was the success of the team at that time? Were you mid-table?
Yeah, we
challenging,
were around position 6, 7, 8,
Okay.
something like that.
So above mid-table,
yeah.
not quite at that level
No,
to challenge and push
no.
on.
It was you always at the end of the season the playoffs, number 5 till 8
Mhm.
for the Europe. We made that one time. We had that. We won the playoffs and we went to Europe, but it was always around that position.
Yeah. What was the European experience like? Did you go through the qualifiers then the next season, or
No.
automatic
You.
qualification?
I think at that time I'm not really sure. It was playing 2 games, I think.
Okay.
So we had Partizan Belgrado away, and I think we had Fiorentina away and home.
Okay. And how was it travelling to stadiums like Fiorentina and
Fiorentina I wasn't, because at that season I was on loan to the other team.
so that
But
was
the
that
season before I think was at Partizan Belgrado. I was there as well. Yeah, the whole atmosphere of this Europa League, or how it was something else,
It's
you
different,
know.
isn't it?
So
Yeah.
I remember we came to the hotel. Okay, slept there. Next day was the game, and from the hotel to the stadium, there were police everywhere. Every 10-20 meters I saw someone standing with a gun, and I was like, oh, and I already knew this fans there were a bit
Serbian
crazy.
ultras,
So yes.
Next level.
And
yeah.
and then we went to the stadium, and I felt like that aggressive atmosphere. But it was a nice experience.
Because who was it? It was Cameroon this year that actually got to the final of
Yes,
the
yes,
Conference
it was only-
League
yes.
qualifiers
Yeah.
against Partizan as well, I think.
It was Partizan, yes.
And I think they got that kind of reality check of the level of the teams that are actually in these competitions at the final stages.
But I think
They did a very good job.
And even now with the Conference League, it's a bit more easier than the Europe League.
Yeah.
So it could be a good thing for Malta for the future.
I think so, yeah. I think there's some real potential for,
Yes.
especially teams like Cameroon who really are investing to make that jump into European competition and give the Maltese kind of fans a team to follow in European competition.
True.
I think it will be a great move for the country if it can achieve qualification in some way. You see often in international qualifications for the national team, they've never been able to make that jump into qualification.
But I think they also improved that last year with winning some games. And for me, how I look at it, I think the whole structure, needs to change a bit to reach
I think
that next
from the
step.
ground up, it needs a little overhaul. But they're making positive steps in the meantime. It's nice to see, and I think it's a good time to be involved in football in Malta at the moment.
No, I think so, and there is a lot of improvement, of course, but I think they already made some right decision steps.
So you said 5 years at Groningen in the first team, thereabouts.
Yeah.
What was the next move after that?
In my last season, because I think in my 3rd year I got a very bad injury on my ankle. I broke my ankle, and everything in my was done.
How was that? Was that during a game, a tackle?
No, it was in training.
In training.
Yeah, it was in training, and it was a really bad injury. So I even was in shock. Could I still play football after this? And actually, it took me a very long time to get back to my level again. And then I had a coach. I had him in the youth academy as well, and we were not that good with each other.
Okay.
We had some history, and I didn't really feel that confidence that I just wanted to have minutes, because the only way to get back to that next level or
play.
the level where I was playing, not playing 2 games and being out. So then I remember how it was. We went on a winter camp. We always do that in Holland. There is a winter break, and then you go into Spain or something for a week or 2. And we were in Spain, and some things between him and me happened. And for example, we were both in the elevator, and we didn't even speak with. It was very awkward, you know, when you have this feeling.
You can just sense that there's something not right between you two,
and then I called my agent after we were landing in Holland. The next day I called him up. I said, I just want to go away. You know, I want to go maybe on loan to another team. I don't care. I just want to have minutes.
Need a break, yeah.
And even at that time, the last, I think, 5 games I was starting at Groningen. And then we found a team in the bottom of the league. They were struggling, and I was in the beginning, should I do this? And then I just decided, go. I just want to play, and I just want to have, get my feeling back.
Yeah.
So I went on loan for that 6 months, and after that, Groningen sold me to Dijk, where I played for 2 seasons.
And what sort of year was this? Because obviously in 2014 you made the jump to England. So
at the 2 seasons before I went to England, I played for Dijk.
Yeah. And how did those 2 seasons go?
Good. In my first year, I scored 11 goals.
11 goals, okay.
But I think there were 5 or 6 penalties.
We don't count
don't tell them.
No, so
it was yes, and the stats were looking really good. I think I was even a goal scorer with the striker. He also had 11 goals. So first season was really well. I came there. I felt a lot of confidence. I was new. The coach made me captain directly. We had a really good season. We ended up position 9, I think.
Did you feel like you'd gotten back to where you were ability-wise, or had you even gone past that and now started to play better than you think you were?
No. It took a while, actually. But I think the right decision for me was to go on loan this 6 months, because I just wanted to play like 15 games in a row.
Exactly.
And I remember the first 5 games I played on loan, I played bad. So I was a bit, please, I want to keep playing, but this coach, he was telling me, no, you
understood the situation.
Yes. And actually I ended up that season very well, because we ended up in playoffs for relegation. For relegation playoffs. And we had 4 games, I scored 4 goals in total. And they stayed in.
Good way to finish
so
the
it was
season.
A perfect way to start. And with that confidence, I went to this team in The Hague. Then this coach made me captain directly, and so... I
mean, it's the perfect way to finish off a loan spell. I often have discussions with players that are going on loan about that mindset. Some players go on loan knowing that they're always going to go back to their parent club, and they don't really take to the team as much as they should, or care as much about the results, because you see...
but I think if you go on loan to another team,
you need to embrace that you're a part of that team, and no matter where you're going to be next season.
There is always a reason why you went on loan, because otherwise you were playing at the other team.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And but for me, I went on loan 2 times in my career, and I always took that as a good thing, and it always worked out for me as well. And I even think if you don't make it like you're a lone player, maybe you end up at that team.
Exactly.
If you're doing well or you're giving the right attitude. So I always saw it as something good.
It's always important to take that opportunity
Yes.
and make the most of it instead of...
Yeah, because some players, they see it as, okay, I need to go on loan to another team to get play minutes, but maybe it's a lower team or something, and they're like, okay, I'm just going there.
Exactly.
But if you go with that attitude, it's not going to work.
And sometimes even the manager at the other side can see that, and then they don't play you, and then the
And
whole
then
experience
if
is
you're
a waste
not,
of time.
Yes,
Exactly.
and even if you're not playing in a loan team,
Then
it's
there's a
hard to
problem.
come back to the other team
Yes,
as well.
Exactly. So it's good that you made the most of the opportunity, finished on a high, keeping them out of relegation, and then obviously you made the jump to the next team.
Yeah.
Tell me about how the deal to Brighton actually came about. So how does a player go from playing in Holland to suddenly making the jump to the Premier League?
It was a difficult summer actually, because that was the first time I was a free agent as well. So in the beginning, there were some Dutch teams, but I was like, no, it's the right moment to make a step. I think I was 24, 5, 6, I don't know. So I had the feeling, okay, it's the right moment to make
that leap.
Yes.
Outside of Holland
and then in the beginning there were of course a lot of teams in Holland they wanted, but I said to my agent, no, at this stage I really want to focus on that one. But in Holland we are very structured. We want to have the team ready already in June or May. And in abroad they're a bit more like, we start the season and we see.
Yeah.
So some things came by, but I didn't really feel it.
What were some of the teams just off the top
There
of
was
your
a
head?
team in Cyprus.
Okay.
They were playing Europe League every year. I can't even remember which team it was.
I feel like I know what team it was. Maybe was it Limassol or
Nicosia.
something? Okay,
Nicosia,
Apple
Nicosia, yes. For example, this, but I didn't have that feeling that I wanted to go that way.
Yeah.
What else? There came some options, but I didn't really. But then the time was passing,
And then you start to weigh up. Do
yes,
I need to make a decision?
Yes,
or...
and then I was like to my agent, okay, maybe I need to sign with a Dutch team again for 1 year, and then we see the. Then he said, no, stay calm. But it was already beginning of August. Competitions were starting already, and then you see teams playing.
Got a month left.
Then I remember there was a team in Russia. And I was like, okay, Russia, now it was really good money, but I didn't feel like to play there. And it was even, the team was Ufa, and it was like, I don't know, 10 hours even from Moscow. It was not a good atmosphere or place.
No.
So that came, but it was beginning of August, so I was a bit like, should I take it or not?
It's funny the mindset players get put in that final month of transfer window. When you don't have a contract on the table set yet, you start thinking about every option that you would previously dismiss instantly. Now it suddenly becomes, well, actually, could I see myself playing in the back end of Hungary somewhere in front of 100 people?
No, but it is difficult. But I always had in my mind, okay, I want to go abroad, so I need to wait.
Exactly.
I just need to wait.
Be patient.
And then you have people around you, like my agent, he was always trying to keep me calm and blah, blah, blah. You just need to stay fit, let me do the work, blah, blah. So I said to this team in Russia, I don't really feel it. But there was a Russia agent in between. Mm-hmm. And he was calling me every day, like every hour almost. And I said, no, I think I want to go for a next step. Then he left me alone for 3 or 4 days. And still there was nothing else.
Yeah.
And then he called me again. So I was like, for what? I picked up. And he said, they want to do a bit extra on the contract. And I was like, well, now it's getting serious, and it was really good money. So it was getting better and better. And then at that time, I think it was 6th of August or something. I was like, oh, should I do this? And then I said, no, I'm not going to do it. 3 days later, he called me again, and they raised the offer again. And then I spoke with my wife, and then I said, okay, but since I don't think I will move there, because it was like just a training ground, and there was one big apartment there next to the training ground, and you could live there. But there was nothing else to do.
So in that situation, when you have that talk, obviously, with your family, is the plan to move them with you if you take the offer, or
that time I didn't have kids, so at that time it was a bit easier because I could say, okay, my girlfriend, she can come for, I don't know, a month, and then she can go for 2 months back home, blah, blah, something like that. But I'm not the type of person who wants to sit in an apartment and just train and sit in an apartment. Yeah. So it was at that time difficult. But then they called me again, of course, and it was 10th of August, and it was like, okay, I feel I need to make a decision. Yeah. So I was very close to sign that deal. Then I had another chat with my agent, and he said, Danny, give me, I don't know, 5 days. Yeah. There are 2 teams in England I'm speaking now, and I think one of them is gonna make a move. And then actually after 3 or 4 days he called me up. We are flying to Brighton, and we're just gonna see how everything is there. They want to see you. They just want to have a little chat. And actually from them it went really fast and I signed. But I was actually very close to go to Russia.
How your career could have been different.
Yes. So it was.
What did you think of Brighton? First initial thought when you landed in and was shown around Brighton as a place? Because in England,
it's a really nice
lovely,
place.
Lovely
Yes.
Place. The pier, the beach kind of environment.
Actually, I already felt that quite quick. Because most of the time when before thinking about England, you think about dark, grey, rainy, blah, blah. And I didn't feel that at all. It was like a really nice atmosphere. So I had a little walk in the city there with my agent. And then we went to the training ground that afternoon. And from there, after we went to the training ground, I said, I need to sign with this team.
This is the
and
one.
The training ground, it was... they don't have that in Holland, for example. That structure and everything. Okay. Everything was there. So I was like, if I want to become a better player, 100% I need to sign here.
This was when they were Premier League, right?
No, Championship.
Yes, so this was when they were just making their push to the Premier League.
Yes.
Okay. I think when I had Ramal on, we ended up doing 5 hours.
No way.
We had to do 2 days. We had to do 2 days. Good. So you're coming into the Championship in England. What would you compare the level of Championship football in England to Premier League in Holland? What were the differences that you noticed immediately?
In Holland, we are very patient with the ball. We want to play always nice football from the back. And there it was like, boom, goalkeeper got the ball. Boom, long ball, and you need to run and fight. Actually, I signed with Brighton, and the coach at that time wanted to really play football from the back, so it was suiting me. But the other team, sometimes they had, I don't know, a free kick in the half of their half, and they just put it
into the box.
And I wasn't. Yeah. I grew up with like playing from the back and always try to keep it low and to touch, and there it was. And it was a nice experience because you see also another side of playing football.
I always find it funny when people from outside of England get that first taste of English football and realise how smash mouth it is. It's rough, it's rugged, it's lightning quick. Yeah. And because of the wet surface, the ball just zips. The ball is moving like 90 miles an hour around the pitch, and you have to.
And what I really think about that time, what I really like is sometimes before training, I saw players sitting like this with their eyes closed on the phone, maybe 2 minutes before training. And then when they came on the pitch and they started directly, there was a switch with all these players, and that's something we don't have in Holland, for example. Okay. It was like, okay, of course, but you always need to do your warming up slow, and you start a bit, and then after 20 minutes you start like properly. But there, the first minute, everyone was starting, and that was something else I wasn't, I wasn't used to.
How long did it take you to adjust to English football, would you say?
Quick, because I remember I signed on a Saturday, and I didn't have any pre-season. I signed on a Saturday, and they had an away game on Saturday against Birmingham, so that was the first game I was in the stadium because I wasn't in the squad. And then I think that Tuesday they were playing Leeds away, so they were staying over in that area.
Save them going
the whole weekend. So I met up the guys that Saturday evening after the game in the hotel.
Yeah.
Sunday training, Monday training, and I was Tuesday starting.
starting straight away.
So
wow.
I was starting straight away. That Saturday had another game starting straight away.
Yeah.
And I think that other Tuesday and Saturday I was starting as well. And then we had an international break. So I was
Just
straight
full on
into
straight
it.
away,
Yes.
yeah.
And then I think the first 8 or 10 games I was starting all the time. But then I didn't have any preseason and I had to start directly and adapt to that like high intensity.
Exactly.
And then after I really needed a break because my body, I felt like I couldn't move and I was so tired.
Even the Championship is the most grueling schedule in English football.
It's crazy.
You're playing midweek, weekend, weekend, cup games
cup games, yes.
You're almost playing every 2-3 days a match. And it's just...
And then even sometimes I was running 14k a game.
Exactly.
You know, and then you need to do that 6 times a month.
Box to box.
Yeah,
Playing as a box to box midfielder in England means
box
box to box.
It really means box to box.
You go up front and then the goalkeeper's punted it,
and especially after a corner, you know, goalkeepers, oh man, you have to go again
for your life to get back.
But it was a nice experience, and I learned a lot from these 2 years.
How were the teammates at Brighton? Were they welcoming?
Yeah, it's really welcoming. I had to say at that time we had a really nice, close team, and I always felt welcome actually. So.
What was your level of English like when you moved to England? In Holland, do they teach you English growing up?
But I had Scottish and Irish teammates. Couldn't first 2-3 months. I was sitting on the table with lunch and I couldn't even tell what he was saying. So I thought
north you go in England.
Yes, I know. But I thought my English was okay. But then I came there and I hear these guys. And
they talk fast as well.
And so fast, and I don't know. Now I understand it. But at that time, I couldn't.
I get it over here a lot. Even me with a London accent, which I think is quite understandable. You talk to like your friend, and people just turn around and say, "I can't understand you. You talk too fast. Like your accent is really hard to understand."
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
No, I had that problem in the beginning. But what I say, after 2 months or something,
you start to keep up.
Yes. And I could explain myself, and I could understand some players. And at that time, we also had a lot of Spanish players. Mm-hmm. So I hang around with them as well. Yeah.
So first season must have gone quite well because you ended up in the Premier League after.
No.
Was it second season?
No, it was the third season actually.
Third season.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So first year, it was a nice experience for me to play there and get the minutes. I played a lot of games. But then the coach who was bringing me in, Sami Hyypiä, the Liverpool legend, he left in the winter.
Okay.
And then a new coach came, and it was more a typical English coach. And I still played with him, but I already had the feeling I'm not sure.
It's not the right match.
No. And especially Hyypiä, I was playing every game with him. He gave me a lot of confidence. And he wanted to play the football that was suiting me as well.
It suits you, playing out from the back and actually getting on the ball and having time to play.
Yes.
Whereas an English coach, I'm guessing, wanted to just skip
put
the
it
midfield,
in the
skip the midfield, midfielder there just to try and win the ball back and then send it back.
So I already felt it a little bit at the end of the season. I have to be honest, this coach was very straight with me. So in the end of the season, we spoke a bit about how the season was going and what his plans were for the next year. And then he told me, I don't see you going to play a lot because I have different ideas of what I want with a midfielder. But then I just made a decision. I said, okay, fair enough, you tell me, but I'm still here next preseason because I'm going to show you wrong.
Exactly.
And it was I only had 1 season in England, so I was like, I'm not gonna leave here quick.
You want to experience a little bit more,
And so at that time I say, okay, I see you next season, and we're trying to. And then I had a really good preseason. I think I was fittest I ever been, because I really felt like I have to prove him something.
Exactly.
And then he didn't start with me, of course, in the first games, and I think the first 12 games we didn't lose. So actually he was making the right decision.
Exactly,
and I couldn't say anything. And sometimes I was not even in the squad. But he was always very...
upfront about it.
Yeah, and very respectful to me as well. If they had an away game, sometimes they want to bring that 90 or 20 player extra.
Yeah.
And then he always asks me if I want to be that guy, and so sometimes I prefer you take a young guy. You know, I don't want to
make that
travel and sit away. I prefer to train here in the gym and do a bit more. So he was very respectful to me. And that year I only played, I don't know, 2 games or something. I only played the FA Cup and these cup games.
The rotation games.
Yes. But that season I didn't play at all. And the team was doing really well. And we missed promotion on 2 goals.
Goal difference.
Yes, on goal difference. So we had the last game, it was like Middlesbrough away. And I think if we made a draw there, it was enough because it was between us and Middlesbrough. And we lost that game. So then we had to come to the playoffs and we lost the first game directly and it was over. Because we were whole season like first on the table. Then we messed up a bit on the end and that's why we were...
Yeah.
But I still had one, so I signed for 3 years, so I still had 1 year. So I was... That game, I was really hoping, you know, let's go.
Exactly.
If we go to the Premier League,
it can...
Yes, and it can make a big difference as well. So we missed out that opportunity. Then the season after, I still had that contract, and the club really want to. Okay, what are your plans? You didn't play for a year. You don't want to play for another year, and I already had in my mind I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. But I said no. Maybe I'm going to stay. You know, I don't know.
Exactly. Don't want to shut.
Yes. And then started pre-season again there. And at that time I felt they were always very respectful to me, but they were like, okay, what do you want? It's not good for your career to stay here. But I was on really good money, and the money I would not get in Holland, for example. So I was like, yeah, okay. At this point, I'm staying.
I think it's one of those arguments that unless you are a footballer, you don't understand that kind of mindset you go through. When you have a contract in place for a certain amount of money, it's like telling someone in a normal line of work, let's say they're doing an office job, hey, go and move to this company for 3/4 of less money. Why would you do that if you've got a secure job?
So, but I knew I had to. If I didn't play for 2 years, it's becoming a problem. Exactly. So I already knew I had to leave, but I had to play it somehow. And then we decided, I think end of August, to terminate the contract, and I signed with another team in Holland. Okay. And that season they went up.
That was the year they went up?
That was the year they went up. But it was when I'm looking back, it was a really nice experience, and I still speak with a lot of players from that time. We still go back a lot to Brighton because we still have friends there.
It's a lovely area
it's a really nice area.
Especially holiday destination. Brighton's one of the best places to go in England.
I think
the nightlife is great. Yes. The whole kind of atmosphere of the place.
And it's not far from London as
well.
Exactly.
What is it like? I think they've just made a new bullet train as
45 minutes or something.
And it's like 45 minutes and you can get straight into the centre of London. So.
It was a nice experience.
And is that the only experience that you kind of had up until obviously Malta, playing outside of Holland? Or had you
I had some other options. That year when I terminated the contract with Brighton, my old coach was calling me directly if I wanted to sign with his team. That was Zwolle in Holland. So I signed with them after I signed with Twente. And in between I had some options to go to Turkey, but my experience of going abroad was a bit, because in Holland, of course, you're always depending on a coach, but most of the time in Holland also a club decides to sign a player, and in England it's more like, okay, this coach wants to have this player because the new coach came when Hipia left, and the next season he was bringing in 12 new players, but they still have these other players on the loan as well. So they don't care about.
No, exactly, and that's a tough reality. I think a lot of players face in England that come from other countries is they don't realise just how ruthless it is in England, and it's almost like an inner circle where managers move clubs and they bring their trusted players with them, and everyone else kind of pushed out the door. Like, okay, thanks for your service. Like, move on.
But
now.
even I signed for 3 years. There were 3 or 4 other guys when I signed that year. They signed for 3-4 years as well, and they could leave after 6 months. They said, okay, you can go to another team, and that's a bit how the mentality is there. It's tough because I was not used to that as well.
You feel like, let's say in Holland, the club is investing in you when they sign you, whereas in England it's more
the manager.
What can you do for us right now? After we're done with you now, we don't really care what's going to happen next. Like, you can either sit on the bench and earn your money, or go and leave, and we'll tear up your papers.
That's also in Holland. They really need to think about the money as well. And I had the feeling in England, it's
the money's a bit too much at times. I mean, you look at teams like Man City, or
they don't really care actually.
They can have someone earning 100k a week, and it really doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't.
So that's a big. But if I'm looking back, at that time I was a bit done with England because I was playing 1 year, and then the other year I didn't play at all, and I was a bit frustrated. But I had options to stay in England with other teams. And I didn't do that, so I went back to Holland, and then after 1 year in Holland, I was like, I miss a bit the way they were, the whole atmosphere in England, how they approached football. So how the setup is at the training ground, how the recoveries are. If you have an away game, we had sometimes 3,000-4,000 fans away. All these kind of things. I missed that when I went back to Holland. If I look back at my career, if I could change something, I think after Brighton I would stay with another team in England.
What were some of the clubs in England that had put offers on the table?
Millwall.
Okay.
At my second year, Millwall already wanted to have me on loan 3 or 4 times, and at that time you could go on loan for a month as well. But I was not used to it, so I didn't really felt it like going there for a month, just play 4 or 5 games and then. So I didn't do that. But then when I resigned, they were still asking if I wanted to join them. And Sheffield United.
Okay.
And then after they went from Championship to Premier League as well. So at that time, maybe it was a good decision, but you never know how it.
Exactly.
But at that time, I felt like I had to leave, and I just wanted to go back to the roots. You know, in Holland, I know the
rediscover where you became Danny Holla, and where you became the player that you were, and kind of find that form again. So you went back. What club did you say you signed with?
Zwolle.
And how did your first year back go?
Actually, I especially in the beginning, I didn't play. Also, the first 3, 4, 5 games I played really bad because I didn't play for a year. So I really had to get back to that rhythm again. But afterwards, it went well, and we had a okay season. I scored 4 goals, I think, that season, and I was playing every game, so it was just nice to play again.
Be back involved in the system and have a team around you that you can know that you're going to be getting minutes and trusted in. Then did you say you moved to
Twente?
Okay.
Twente. So I signed only for 1 year at Zwolle, and then
Twente are quite high rated in Holland, aren't they? They're one of like the top 4 or 5.
Top 4 teams, yes, you can say that. Even the fan base, stadium, and everything. I signed there for 3 years. I was really happy because it's a big club in Holland, it's very big fan base and everything, and the setup was really good. But then we had like a horrible season.
Really?
And we relegated. Yes, we relegated. That was a really big shock.
I can imagine even just having such a big club like that, fighting relegation throughout the season. How did the kind of fan base respond to that?
It was a very difficult season. Even the coach got sacked after 6 or 7 games. A new coach came in. There were problems with this new coach. Then he went out again. The assistant coach took over. So it was a bit of a mess.
No one really got the time to.
No, the director who was bringing me in got sacked after 12 games, or he had to leave as well, especially of the pressure of the fans. So it was a really, really difficult year, actually.
Were you fighting relegation the full season, or was it something that you kind of slipped into later on into the season?
No, I think from the beginning. I think the first 2-3 games we did well, and then we were already there in the bottom, and then I don't know, all these things happened. We had bad luck with injuries. We conceded like stupid goals, and then it was like this. It was just a season where everything went wrong. Everything
that possibly could go wrong goes wrong.
And
I find once you're in that environment of being at the bottom of the table, it's so difficult to try and claw yourselves back into a positive frame of mind. Players start bickering. Fans are putting so much pressure on the team to succeed, calling out watching every player's movement. Let's say you walk back to the halfway line instead of jog back. The players are blasting you online, saying that you don't care.
If you are in that situation, it's very difficult to. Most of the time, it needs to happen in the winter break, you know, so everyone can have this 2-3 weeks off, and then regroup again. But even in the team, we had a lot of problems, and some players want to have the second coach out, but there were also the players they want to have at first moment already the first coach out, and other players are like, why should he leave? It was a total mess. It was a total mess. But I signed for 3 years, and then I had an option in my contract. If we were relegated, I could terminate the contract. I didn't want to do it actually because I felt like responsible that we went down, and the club was so big. But then this whole structure was like, it was a mess. I didn't feel happy to go to the club. They didn't even know who's going to be the coach for next year, all this stuff. And then I decided
the reassurances that you need to stick it out with them weren't there. So you had to kind of make use of that clause in your contract and opt out. So what was the move after that?
Move after that was at that time I was like, now I want to go abroad again, 100%. So I spoke a lot with my agent. Okay, this. Then a lot of options came, but again, I already had one son, so it had to be like a good move.
Not to Russia.
No, not to Russia. No, but there were some nice things, but I didn't really feel that. It was Indonesia, all this kind of
the Asian countries.
Yes, and it was nice, but
such a drastic change of lifestyle that it would be very hard to adapt.
But then a team from Australia came, Melbourne.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a nice experience. So I sat down with my girlfriend, should we do it? It's far away from family, but it's a nice opportunity. But I was 29 at that moment. And at that moment I felt like you're going there when you're 32, 3, you know, a bit of your end of your career. So I wasn't that sure. Then the coach from that team called me and they had made this nice video of everything. So they changed my mind a bit. And then we had this mindset, okay, we're gonna do it. You know, why not? Let's do it. If it's not working, we're coming back after 1 year, and we had this nice experience. I think Melbourne, I've never been, but what I've seen, I think it's a beautiful city.
Australia is one of those places. Unless you have a reason to visit, sometimes you just never actually go there on holiday.
No, exactly.
When you get that 1 year work experience to go there, it's like, oh, actually, that's a really good opportunity.
And they were playing in the Asia Champions League as well, so it was even for the football it was good as well, and you get to travel. So then let's do it. And then they sent the contract. They wanted to book the flight tickets, and it took a couple of days. And then we found out my girlfriend was pregnant from the second one.
Okay.
And then our whole system changed. Okay, because my oldest son was born in England. And it didn't feel like a good experience being away from the family, being on just the two of you, you know. Difficult. Yes. And then we said, we are going to the other side of the world. With a second baby. So we had a lot of discussions about it, and then we decided not to do it. But I already signed the contract, for example. So the club was not that happy, but that coach was really respectful, and he said, "Yeah, I understand the situation. Sorry to hear." But then I missed that opportunity. But I did it myself. But even if I'm looking back now to that time, I wish I did
Had
it.
things have been different,
Yes,
would have been nice just to do.
And then
the year
because I waited again so long, and this was already also in August or something, and I waited again. Then a team in Turkey wants to sign me, but then when we find out that my girlfriend was pregnant, we said, okay, the best option is to sign in Holland.
Yeah.
But all the teams in the Eredivisie, they were already, because what I say, in May or June, they already want to have the squad ready. So I couldn't find a good team. Then a second league team called me, and they just had a new owner. He was putting a lot of money. He wants to bring in like the good atmosphere and want to bring them up quick. And then I signed with them for 1 year, and I think we ended up third or fourth. We had a really good season till the winter. We were first all the time. But second league in Holland, it's different than.
What's the main differences between the leagues?
I think it's a bit as the same as the championship, I would say. So a lot of 1 against 1, playing more the long ball and all this stuff.
So it's not as technical and not as pretty as the top league.
And a lot of, especially nowadays, a lot of young players as well. It's good because they can have their minutes. Even when I was 18, I played in that league as well to get some minutes. But sometimes it felt for me a bit difficult because I was always playing on that Eredivisie level, and then you need to go to this level with, in my opinion, was a total different way of playing. So I struggled a bit that season. Didn't really had a good season. Team performance, it was good, but from myself it wasn't that good.
You felt like you could be playing better, but...
Yes, but it was also a bit of...
struggling to adjust to
the
level around you.
Yes. So I signed with them for 1 year, and then I was a free agent again.
Okay.
So I've been free agent a couple of times. Yes. And then I said, okay, I think this is the moment to go abroad. Now waiting again, but I'm always being very picky in clubs, countries, and all this stuff. And I think especially when you have kids, that was my main thing. They had to be in a good, and I cannot play in a country and they stay still in the Netherlands. I need them
pillar
around.
Of support around you, keeps you sane during the season.
Yes. So that at that time I was very picky. Okay, what do I want? And then Portsmouth came.
Okay.
So, but it was end of August, I think. But they wanted to see me if I was fit, because of course I didn't have the preseason again. So I say, okay, let's go there. This is crazy. It's a good story for the podcast. Yes. So I went there, met the team, met the coach, trained with them, and after 3 days, the coach said, okay, I want to sign you. So I said, okay, good. So I went to the stadium. There was the technical director.
Yeah.
So I spoke with him about the contract, and then he started, okay, we want to sign you, but we want to sign you till the winter. And it was September. So, 2.5, 3 months or something. Yeah. I said, I'm going to be honest, it's not something I want. I have a family. I need to bring them over for a couple of months. What if I get an injury after a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Then I need to move away again.
You need a year at least of security.
So I had a chat with him, and then he said, the coach only wants to sign it to the winter because he wants to see how you adapt in the team, blah, 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 blah. I said, I have a family, so for me, I prefer to have a bit of
security.
Yeah, security of a year. So he could understand it, but he was still like, from and what I'm saying, the coach is decides everything. Yeah. So he said, as a club, we want to sign you for a year, but the coach prefers to do, because if you're not doing well, he can take another player, Yeah. So I I wasn't really happy with that, but I really wanted to get back to England because I left 3 years before and I felt bad that I left. So I was like, this is a nice opportunity to come back.
That hunger was still inside you to play in England.
Yes.
Yeah, go back to that level.
And it actually was a really nice club, nice stadium, like a big fan base.
Had that long stint of them being in the Premier League, massive upgrades all throughout their club, and then just started to fall down the leagues. It's a really sad story.
It is. But still, in the League One, they have, I don't know, every game so much.
Massive support, massive club, lots of history in the Premier League.
So I had a chat with, the next day I had training, I had a chat with the coach about it. I said, Coach, I prefer to have, at least a year. And then he said, no, but Danny, I want to see how it's going. And I said, I can understand it from your side, but I have a family at home. I prefer not to leave them for 3.5 months in Holland and I'm being here because then I'm going to miss them. If I want to how do you call it? Perform well, I need to have them with me, because otherwise maybe I want to travel a bit more.
Be distracted in the back of your head. You're going to be wondering what's going on back home.
Yes, and you just want to have them there. He said, fair enough, but you need to see it from my side. I said, okay, I can... but Portsmouth-Brighton is a 1 hour drive.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? Then I want to live in Brighton. I'm going to live in Brighton and then I'm driving, maybe sometimes stay over in a hotel or something. But we still had contact with the babysitter at that time. We still had friends there. My wife already know a lot of people there, so it's easier to go there, and
it's a much easier sell to the family.
Yes,
hey,
because
we're going back where we were.
and after a week or so, you're back in that same rhythm.
Yeah.
Let's say if you go to a different city and you don't know anyone, you need to start again, and it always takes 3 or 4 months to adapt.
Settle, and then you're off again. So.
Yes. So he said, okay, yes, for me it's fine. Blah blah blah. I went to the director again, and my agent spoke a lot with him to do the contract.
Yeah.
Next day, I had training again. After training, coach said, "Dan, can you come to my office? I want to have a little chat." We spoke yesterday about you living in Brighton. For me, it's not an ideal situation, but you are already 30, so you know what's best for your body. But I prefer you living here in Brighton or in Portsmouth. Yeah. I said I prefer to have a contract for a year. So we already got a little bit that.
Yeah, you can tell that there's not that chemistry that you want with the manager.
Yes.
It's not smooth. It's a little bit rough.
And if I look back at that time, I'm thinking why. But that's also the person I am. If I feel something or I want to say something, I'm saying. Yeah. But that conversation was actually not that bad. So I was like, I prefer you're living here, but if you want, okay, we can work it out. So I was like, okay, it feels good. Yeah. I think we need to do it. So I called my agent. I said, okay, try to clear the deal quick, and then I can sign, and maybe can already play this weekend. The next day after, I trained again with them in the morning, and then the coach called me again in his office. I was like, okay, where is it going? Yes. And then he said, Danny, I had to think about it, and I want you to live in Portsmouth. But then I said, okay, so first you went from, okay, yes, of course, you can live in Brighton, to, okay, maybe it's not the ideal situation, but still you can, to no. He said, yeah, I just made that decision yesterday. If you want to play for Portsmouth, you need to live in Portsmouth. So there was already a bit of
friction.
Yes. Yeah. But I really wanted to sign there because what I said, I wanted to went back. So I said, you know what? Then I only wanted to do one thing. I want to fly back home today. I'm going to sit with my family, and I'm gonna tell them that we're gonna live in Portsmouth, and that we're gonna see from there. If that's what you want, no problem. So I had the training. After training, they booked my tickets. So I went home. Sit with my family, girlfriend, kids, blah, blah, blah. And then we said, okay, we're going to do it. So I called my agent. I said, you need to fix this deal now, and then it's done. Done is done. Exactly. And then we will see what happened in the winter. So after, I don't know, 2 hours or something, my agent called me. He said, congratulations, the deal is done. You're finished. They were sending the contract. They're already looking for the tickets because you need to fly back tomorrow. I said, no worries. And I was already packing my luggage. And actually, I saw there were 2 flights, I don't know, Saturday morning and at 2 o'clock. So I already knew that it was going to be
one of these.
Yeah. And then I packed my stuff against my old son. I said, I'm already going to England. You're coming in about 3 or 4 weeks. Exactly. And then, you know, I was already telling him,
help set up, and then they come once you're settled.
And then I got I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours later, I got a phone call from and I see the manager, the manager's number. So I'm like, hi coach, and I wanted to say congratulations, you know, we're gonna see each other tomorrow, so I picked up, hi coach, and then he said like, Danny, I keep it short, I pulled off the deal, and I was like, how? And they just sent it the contract as well in the email to my agent. So I said, how is this possible? But I was so angry, of course, because I already had a little bit of argument with him. So I said, okay, fine, bam, and I hang up. I called my agent directly, and this is true story. I called my agent and I said, listen, I just spoke to the coach and he pulled off the deal. He said, no way, I just spoke with the director 2 minutes ago and everything is fine. I said, he just called me and he pulled off the deal. He said, no, you're joking. I swear. He said, you're joking, it's not true. And then he said, while I was calling with him, he said, wait, the director is calling me now. I'm hanging you up, and then he picked up the phone, called me back after 10 minutes or something, and he said, it's really true, you're right. And the club really felt embarrassed for the whole situation, because not even the technical director knew about that the coach was pulling off that deal.
Who was the coach at the time?
Kenny Jackett. So yeah, it was a very weird situation actually, and
it's very frustrating from your end, being fully packed,
deals
done. You've got that confirmation as far as you're concerned.
I finally made that decision as well. Okay, we're just gonna do it, stay there for 3 or 4 months, or maybe we stay there for 3 years. We don't know, but
and the fact that at the first it was okay, you can live in Brighton. No, you can't live in Brighton. I prefer if you live in Portsmouth. But if you have to, fine. No, you can't live in Portsmouth. No, you can't even come to Portsmouth.
I don't know. I don't know what really happened. And then what I'm saying, I called my agent and said he pulled off, and he said no way. I just spoke 2 minutes ago and everything, and they already sent the contract as well to the email. I think I already signed maybe the contract. So it was a very crazy situation.
Funny enough, I had that happen to me this season.
Yeah?
So when I signed with Zurich, I had the deal put on the table. Melvin had introduced me to the club, and he asked if they could sign me to help him settle. It was all agreed. They called me to do my medicals, so I arranged taxis, did my medicals. That day they gave me the paper to sign, signed everything. And at the end of the training session, after everything had done, all the medicals had done, they called me over, the coach and the team manager. And I'm thinking, okay, great, they're going to say, welcome to Zurich. I said, Danny, we've actually had a think and we're going to not register you if that's okay. I said, what? I was like, I just did the medical. I just spent like 40 euros on taxis and stuff and arranged all of this stuff for you to actually play. Like, what's up? We've just had a think and like, the coach has already told you that you might not really play and blah. I was like, look, no offence, but you've already said that every other team is full. Like, who am I going to sign with now? It's like a couple days before the window kind of shuts. I'm like, no offence, but I've signed the deal. Like, you're not unregistering me. I'm not going to terminate the deal now. It's just like, I'll stick it out maybe for a few months, and if you want me to have a look at teams in January or something, fine. But I need to get fit now, and I've been training pre-season. I'm enjoying it here. Like, with all due respect, no, I'll stick around and fight for my place. And
what did they say then?
They backed off. The players couldn't believe it when I then went to the foreigners because they were all laughing with me. I went to them, I was like, you never guess what I just got told. They just told me they don't want to sign me. They were like, fuck off. No, they didn't. I was like, no, really, they did. They just tried to unsign me. Melvin was a bit pissed off. Like, why did that happen? But from then on it was just kind of a a battle.
So we've been in the same situation.
Yeah, funny. I literally, as soon as you were talking about that, I was thinking, wow, that sounds really familiar.
No, it's that's also a part of football. You know?
And people change their minds.
Yes, these things happen. But for me, in my situation, when there is a family involved,
it's a full move
and you go to another country
Europe,
as well.
Yeah, across Europe.
So it was it was difficult, but I managed.
What sort of time in the year was this as well? Was this in August or
in the beginning of September or something like that.
So how much time did you have to try and find another deal then?
Then I only have weird stories. Then I have always had during my career my own physio in Holland.
Okay.
So I always went to him. He doing a lot of players, he was knowing a coach in America.
Okay.
And I always wanted to play in America.
Yeah.
So he said, you know what? I know him already for 15 years. I'm gonna text him. He was the coach of Chicago Fire.
Okay. Yeah.
In MLS. If they need a player and maybe, so he was texting him. I think in October or something. I have a player here with me, Danny Holla. He's coming here already when he was a kid.
Yeah.
He's looking for a team. He really wants to make a move to the MLS. Do you have any space on midfield or something like that? And then he texted actually straight away when I was there. Yeah, we're actually looking because Schweinsteiger was there and he was leaving because he stopped his career. So they had the spot open on midfield. I'm not comparing myself with Schweinsteiger, but it was just a spot on midfield,
exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
He said, you know what, it's the end of the season here.
Yeah.
We're still going to train for 6 weeks. Let him come and, we can see him, he can see us, he can see if it's something for him, yes or no. They booked the ticket straight away. So I went.
Very organised in America, isn't it?
Wow.
I spent 4 years in America. Loved it.
It's what, like playing?
I did 2 years of coaching professionally in America, and then I did 2 years of playing at college.
Oh wow! It's so organised.
Amazing.
Because even now I'm thinking I still want to maybe play there, so that's why I'm gonna check this winter if there is some
because the season starts in March.
Yes.
Right? So
yes. They always wanted to sign in the winters. But even I want to get my coaching license as well. Maybe I'm thinking about to go there and coaching some teams because I like the lifestyle as well.
It's very nice over there, especially Chicago, somewhere like that area. Busy city, everything that you can possibly want around you. Yeah.
And I think even the whole structure of football is getting better and better.
It's growing so much every year. It just keeps taking leaps and leaps and leaps. I never would have thought. Even 10 years ago, it would be at the state it is now. Amazing place to play football.
So I went there, trained with them for a couple of weeks, had some games. After 3 weeks or something, they had a little break of 5-6 days because they already had the long season. Then even the club asked me, "Do you want to go back home? We can book the tickets." I said, "Yeah, okay. Well, otherwise, I'm sitting here in the hotel." They booked the tickets. And they booked the tickets again to come back as well. So I came back after 6 days, trained again for another 3 weeks, played a game. And the coach was really happy what he was seeing. He said, I think you suit in the team. We can help. I think you can help us. And blah. So he said, you know what, season is over now. I'm going to call you maybe next week or something and we can see
if we can make this.
Yes, I think then we can speak maybe about a contract or something, he said. So actually he called me after a week, so I was really happy when I saw he was calling. And then he said, Danny, I have bad news. He just got sacked.
Oh my God.
So, and they're gonna do the whole new structure with a new technical director and everything, so that deal was
It's
totally
the one thing
off.
about America, when they make a change,
they change the whole organization.
Everything, the whole roster gets changed, everything from top to bottom completely changed.
So I felt really bad after that because that's
a
something
bummer.
I really
Yeah.
wanted to have.
That's a real knock to the bucket list.
Yes,
Something that would have been really nice to tick off.
Yes,
And say,
and what you're saying, everything was so organized. They booked the tickets. The hotel was perfect in the middle of the city.
They take care of you. They really, really take care of you.
They're always coming a fan in the morning. Yeah. They were bringing me back to the hotel. Everything was organized. I got even pocket money to buy the food and all this stuff. So it didn't cost me any money as well. Everything was so good organized. I was surprised. So I missed that.
Doors still open.
Hey, you never know.
Never know. Never say never.
No, it's true. It's true.
What place would you ideally want to move to in America? If you had a choice, is there a state?
I would be LA or Miami.
Yeah. I spent a year and a half in LA.
Yeah?
Living in Santa Monica.
Wow.
The best experience.
Yeah, I can
so
imagine.
Nice.
Yes.
You go and do 3 hours of coaching in like the morning, and then you have a whole day to just sit at the beach and live that kind of LA lifestyle. Yes. Really, really nice.
I can imagine. So for one, that's something I really want to. If something like that is coming up this winter, I will take it definitely.
Because I had a friend of mine used to play for LA Wolves, which was a USL team, so it's the league below MLS. Yeah. And they had a team, and I remember I had a week where I'd spent training with them as well, and went and watched him play in the games. And even at that level, like they just took care of everyone. Everything was really organised. The level was surprisingly good.
No, I was surprised about because I didn't know a lot about MLS as well. I know that there were big players in that league, but not how the level would be. But I was really surprised.
It's a really nice blend of athleticism from the local American players, where they're just bred athletes from a very young age. It's just you're an athlete now, and they take the weight training in the gym seriously. And then they bring in those luxury players. And they just add that class to the league and tie that kind of bow around the game. Really, really nice level.
I think even the mindset of how because that's why I think it could be nice to coach a young team there, for example, because the mindset of all these young kids is...
Yes, their parents drill it into them.
Yes.
You want to be professional, turn up, take training seriously. It's not a joke.
Yes.
I loved coaching over there. Some of my best years were spent in America. And
do you want to go back?
I think so. Yeah, you get a lot. You rewarded very nicely over there. I made a lot of money.
That's a good thing as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Affords you a nice lifestyle while you're over there. But it's on my to-do list to go back. I've got a lot of friends still over there, and eventually, I think during the COVID time, it kind of put a big X, because I was thinking about possibly going back sooner, and then it just became very difficult to get into America during that time. So I figured I'd let everything blow over and revisit the option maybe in a year's time, 2 years' time, look at maybe going over on a coaching contract again.
Nice.
But so you ended
up...
Then
I ended up... so that didn't work, and I ended up not being playing for a whole year.
Okay.
And then...
so you've had a few times in your career where you've had a year where you've not played as much. You said at Brighton you had that year.
Yes. But then you were still training and being in that routine.
So this is your first full year
without anything. And maybe it was also my own. I wouldn't say mistake, but I'm always being very picky.
Yeah.
And if I don't feel something, I don't do it. I don't do it. So I had some options, but then I was like,
it's just not.
I'm not sure, and then if I'm not sure, I'm not gonna do it. So I prefer then to stay without a team and just wait for the right thing. And if it's not coming, it's not coming. But then that summer, I had some options in Holland, but.
How did you stay motivated during the year off? What did you do?
It was very difficult because I trained a lot on my own.
Because when you're by yourself, you have to now take on that new level of accountability of your own body, your own... I know in my times where I've had little breaks from playing, especially when I've been coaching, trying to juggle that schedule of, okay, right, I need to find time in the day to go and put my own football workouts in, not just working out in the gym, but I need to stay busy with the ball. How can I do that by myself? Can I find random pickup games and stuff to try and actually match
It
fitness
was actually the first 6 months were easy because I was first at Portsmouth for a couple of weeks, trained with them. Then I made that move for 6 weeks to Chicago. I played even two or three games there. So the first 6 months were easy, but then after, in January, February, March was so difficult. But then in April I've really found that motivation again. Okay, this summer is coming close. Now I need to I need to start. If I still wanted to play, you need to start now. I always, even in January, February, I still did everything, but not how I maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Your mind wasn't focused on.
No, but at that time, in April, it came like, okay, now I need to focus again. I definitely didn't want to sign Holland because I was like my focus on going abroad, so I need to.
Well, you've been so close to making such great jumps. You've had Australia, you've had England, America.
Yes.
You want something exciting that matches that kind of.
Yeah. And then a Dutch player signed with Sliema.
Yeah.
Striker, and he called me up. He said they're looking for a midfielder. Is that something? But I didn't know anything about.
No one ever does. No one ever does.
So I said, okay, I know the weather was good, but that was the only thing I knew. I said, you know what? I come over next week. I'm just gonna check how everything is. He said the structure was good and everything. So I said, I'm coming over for 3 or 4 days. I want to see how the training ground is, and I want to meet some people. So I came and actually liked what I saw, and I thought it was a good family thing as well. Good for my kids.
Malta's one of those places. It's a very hidden location. Not many people know about it. No. When they find out about it, it's usually positive. Everyone kind of takes to the weather very quickly.
Yes.
Takes to the safety of the island.
Yeah. And then everyone is speaking English as well, especially for my kids. They don't speak Dutch anymore. They just speak English. So all these small things
are being ticked off.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's good. And then my girlfriend was like, I'm not really sure what I need to expect. And I said, let's do it. You know, if we don't like it, we leave after in the winter or something. And then that's the way I ended up here.
How did the season go with Sliema? Obviously, Sliema...
First year was a really good season because we had a really good squad, strong squad. But then we had some issues in the club. And then in the winter, players left, and then it went a bit. I think till the winter we were still first on the table.
Because Sliema is the most successful team in Maltese history. They've got the best record in the Premier League. I think it's something like 31 league titles in total. Yeah. And they are a huge club over here.
And the structure, so the pitch, you have the gym, you have a 24/7 physio, you know, the structure is good as well. So the first year was good, besides the problems that came, and that's why we were not performing that well anymore. And the second year, it felt a little bit like that season with FC Twente. Everything what went wrong.
Because it was financial issues, right, with the club, mismanagement financially that kind of just ended up making it a bit of a shit
because
show,
players, especially the abroad players, the foreign players, they said, okay, you know, I didn't get paid for so much months. I can leave now, and they did. So the squad was smaller. It wasn't that good anymore as it was before.
They're making great leaps again, though. In the Challenge League, looks like they're going to pop straight back up to Premier. The coach now at the moment, Paul Zamin, is a friend of mine. One of the best coaches in Malta.
I think so. No, they're doing really well, and I'm really happy for them because they deserve to be.
Exactly. It's never nice to see a big club.
No.
Fall from grace.
And it's even not easy to come back as well.
No, exactly.
So they're doing well, so I'm very happy about that. But that second year really felt like that.
Who were some of the players in the first year? You mentioned the squad was good the first year. What were some of the marquee players they had that year?
We had Gilmar, the number 10, the Brazilian guy. We had Denilson from Arsenal.
I remember when he signed, that made a big ripple effect in Malta. Everyone got excited about him signing.
And then
what was he like as a player? Obviously, he was coming to the end of his career.
Yeah, but as a person, like very calm and
Yeah.
and but you can see on
He
you
had
know
technical ability,
like
played at a
all
high
the
level.
basic stuff like the passing, touches. No, he was a really good player, but he had a lot of problems with injuries.
Yeah.
Then we had a guy, Oscar. He came last year again in the winter. He was there the season before doing really well. And then they took him that season, last year they took him in the winter again, so it was already a bit late. We had that Dutch striker left. Who else left? I don't know, we had a central defender, Brazilian guy, was also a good player left. So it was...
When you're dropping so many, especially in the Premier League, they rely on the foreign players to really up the level of the team to compete. So when you lose so many at one time... And
it's bad because I still think if we didn't had all these problems, we could be champion in that year because we did really well. Yeah.
Even the Maltese players on the team were very
good
players.
Yeah. No, we had a really good squad and we were really playing well. Even the coach, he had a really nice idea of how he wanted us to play
football,
and it worked really well.
So we've just finished talking about your time here in Malta, your first 2 seasons in Malta. Obviously, we're up to present day now, right? In the summer, that's where we met on the MFPA summer camp.
Yep.
Well, you joined late to that, didn't you? They brought you in to kind of just up the level a little bit and give you a bit of a run around.
Actually, I at that time, Pisano was the coach from you guys.
Okay,
and I was always I always was in the gym and he was also in the gym and we spoke a lot of times and we trained sometimes together. And then he said, why you don't come and join, because now you're training on your own, then you can at least...
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay, why not?
It made sense.
So that's why I came, but it was only for 1 week and one game, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I left after to Holland. But it was nice. It's always nice to... It's better to train with more people than on your own.
Exactly.
I see it that way.
I always enjoyed the camp because it's a great place to network and meet people. You find so many people that you just never would have crossed paths with otherwise.
And it's also like the friendly games. It's,
exactly.
You can show yourself and it's also, if you're training, if I'm training on my own, it's always like running a lot, but never a lot with the ball.
And not
because now you still get that passes and you still need to look around with other players. So I think
just being able to train with match intensity makes a big difference, even if it is just for a week. That week will keep you ticking over again for a certain amount of time.
No, for sure.
So you didn't end up signing with anyone for the summer, did you?
No.
What was the decision behind that?
Because
nothing on the table
because
that
I'm not
you wanted, or just
no, I'm not sure if I want to continue. So I had the option to sign with Sliema again. I had some other options as well, other teams, but then I was like, I wasn't that sure if I still wanted to play, and I think if I'm not that sure, it's not fair to sign.
Exactly.
Because I think
you need to give a half version of yourself to a club.
Then it's better to stop. So and then I went back into home summer and I had to fix some stuff there. And then we decided to come back in September or something. So a lot of teams are already starting. They were asking what I want. And then at that moment, I really didn't feel like I had to sign with a team. So, and now I'm at that point that I'm thinking, okay, what do you want?
Have you enjoyed the break?
Yes, actually, yes. Because
a bit refreshing.
What I told you, when I was 8, all my weekends were booked. So now I have the weekend off and it's actually a nice experience as well. So that's, and especially when you have kids, it's nice to
get that full 24/7 time with them. And
so it's a bit of a difficult one, but on the other hand, if I still play for 1 year, I can do it the next year as well. But now I need to make that decision and it's not an easy one. So we will see.
Where, if you were to carry on playing, would you ideally want to be based? Would you want to go back home, or would you want to stay here, or maybe try and, like you said, get that jump to one of the more enticing countries like America?
If America is coming, I will do that. This summer I had some options in other countries, but then if I wanted to play in another country, it needs to be a country where I can see myself staying for 3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to move the whole family only for 1 year.
The life of a footballer can be very stop-start for the family if they are dragged along with it, because jumping country to country, it really struggles for the family to settle at times.
And it always takes 3 or 4 months, and then what? You only have
a couple
6,
months
8
left.
months left. Yes.
Exactly.
So I didn't feel that to do that. So only what I'm saying, let's say if America is coming and I can maybe play there for 1 year and maybe starting the coaching or something there, I could stay longer there.
Exactly.
So that's why, and we don't want to go back to Holland yet.
No.
Because we feel like we can still live there for 30 years.
Of course.
So as a family, we really want to stay maybe 3, 4, 5 more years abroad.
And then
so that's why we said let's keep the base in Malta.
Yeah.
Because the kids go to school, have their friends here, and from there we're gonna see what is coming or not.
I think there will be some things on the table for you, some offers for sure. The career that you've had, obviously, clubs will take that into consideration, and there will be interest.
Yeah.
I think it's going to fall down to you.
Yeah,
like
yes.
Whether you find that deal that actually makes you want to come back, or whether you just 50-50, in which case you turn around and say no because you're not fully invested.
if it's something what I said nice, like where I can see myself maybe living for another 3 or 4 years, I will do it. But if it's like I'm not sure, and if it's only for 6 months or 1 year, I wouldn't do it.
So you've talked a little bit about coaching.
Yes.
When did you kind of have in your head that you wanted to get into coaching?
Maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was there a certain coach that kind of inspired you to want to be a coach?
No,
or
not really. But always when I was younger, or even when I was 32, maybe I said I'm never going to be a coach. Never. No. I never really felt that, and I've seen a lot of players I've played with became a coach, and they stress so much, and they're looking older. In they only 1 season head coach, and they look 10 years older.
Yeah.
So I never was really into that. But now, last season it started a bit, and even on training, I always like to help young players. For example, it's better to stand there because, and then I found out I was enjoying that. So then I was thinking, okay, it could be something. So I just wanted to start the course, and just have that
introduction into it. At least that way you can kind of get that first year and decide if it is for you or not. Dip your toes in and see.
Yeah.
I think I started coaching when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
I started.
You always felt it like you wanted.
Yeah, I don't know. I was one of those weird kids that instead of like being obsessed with FIFA, I used to be obsessed with Football Manager.
Yeah.
And I used to love being the manager behind the thing and not really care about playing.
Yeah.
And as I grew older, I got to maybe 16, and I had my first experience in an academy. But then I got injured for the first year and was injured for the entire season. Started working a bit more behind the scenes, shadowing the coach of the team at the time, and just kind of watching from the sideline what he was doing, and really just got inspired into coaching by that way. Kind of saw my window or my ceiling for how high I can get in the football industry. It was much higher as a coach than it was as a player. And it was only at like 22 that I kind of realised that I had an opportunity to actually start playing again. So I kind of figured, while I'm young enough to do it, I'll start and see how far I can get with playing while doing coaching on the side. And now I'm kind of at that point where I know coaching is definitely the way forward, and I'm kind of just waiting for one good season to then say, okay, right, that's it for playing and focus more on coaching now. But
nice that you already had that when you were young.
Yeah, it was funny, and it was at 16 that I did my first coaching course, and immediately the instructors of the course started highlighting me you've got a very promising future as a coach. And just from then on, at 18, I was offered a professional coaching contract in America. and had just dropped everything, dropped out of college, dropped out of school, left and went to America, and then that kind of took me to where I am now, which is an experience again. I never would have traded. Amazing experience.
Do you have a coach who you're looking up to?
In terms of play style, I always liked Cruyff's play style, in terms of just that free-flowing football where one player can play every position on the pitch and the formation almost is fluid and just changes as you play. So I've always kind of enjoyed that style. And then also I like asymmetric formations where it's not equal. So you might have a winger on one side but not a winger on the other, and kind of overload one side of the pitch. And I've always enjoyed doing the kind of untraditional side of football. Hence the name of the podcast, the Unprofessional Footballer.
Nice. Actually, when it's for me started also the coaching, I like to start to play or to speak with the young players. But even I was watching games lately, last year maybe, and I always watch like nice games, and I'm just watching the game.
Yeah.
But now I felt the last couple of months, year, I'm more looking in the tactic way.
It's funny.
And then when you're starting like that, I was thinking maybe I should start it, because
just that level of understanding you gain from really opening your eyes to how the game can be played. I see football as a game of chess nowadays. I don't see it as a game of football. It's just a game of chess. Move this piece to then kind of take that space. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. I think we're almost done. I'm going to wrap up the podcast just by asking you a couple personal questions, and then we'll call it quits. I'll let you go. You've been here for a long time.
Yes, too long.
So, favourite team growing up? What team did you support?
Ajax.
Ajax?
Yes. Nice shirt, by the way.
Yes. I made sure I wore this one on purpose. I actually got called out when I first... he walked in, I was wearing a green t-shirt. He said, "Where's the Ajax shirt?" I disappeared and came back out. Who was your favourite player growing up?
I never really had... I don't think I had a particular favourite player, no. I think maybe it was at that time at Ajax Van der Vaart.
Yeah, good player, creative midfielder.
Yeah, maybe it was him.
Right, would you rather win the World Cup or win the Champions League? Which trophy is more important to you?
World Cup.
Yeah?
Yes.
Country, nation?
Yes, country, yes.
What was your most memorable goal that you've scored in your career?
I think it was with FC Groningen against Ajax. Scored the 1-0 and we won that game. And my family, I arranged the tickets for my family because they are from this area in Amsterdam. And they are for Ajax.
Yeah.
And then I scored and I ran over to them. Yes. So I think that was the most...
what type of goal was it?
Shot outside the box.
Outside the box?
Yes.
In terms of the squads that you've played for, obviously you've played for a few different teams in your career. What squad would you say was the best squad that you played for?
I think in the beginning FC Groningen maybe.
Okay, what were some of the players that were in that squad at the time?
We had Striker Berg from Swedish guy. We had a Swedish guy in the back, Grangfist.
Yeah.
We had a good goalkeeper, Brazilian guy, Luciano. So I think Tadic was there as well, left winger. I think that squad was...
just talent everywhere.
Yeah, and it was also a squad of the experience and having the young players, and I think... And we were a really nice group together as well. It was really fitting in. Yeah. We had a lot of Scandinavian players, but they always fit in very well in Holland. So
the chemistry was there.
Yeah,
the talent
I think
was there.
We had a nice coach, so I think that could be maybe...
in terms of teammates, who would you say are the best teammates that you've played with, ability-wise? What names come to mind when someone asks you?
Of course, the big players, but I couldn't tell at that time. Yeah. For example, the Van Dijk, Suarez, Tadic, Blind, that they were gonna make it to where they made it. But I think these players, of course, because by name
they have the most value to the
yes,
name.
yes.
In terms of opposition, what opponents have you come up against in your career that you look back and think, wow, he was good?
I remember one game with Brighton against Arsenal was for the FA Cup, and they played with Ozil, Rosicki, and Ramsey on midfield. And at that point, I felt really in the pitch like, okay, this is how it feels to be at the top level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these small passes and the right speed, right foot, everything was feeling right, you know. So I think yes.
Yeah.
These
So that
game actually, you know, I really felt like you want to put pressure, but you're always a bit too late.
Exactly.
Always.
You're just chasing.
Yes.
It's
always
as if you're
changing.
playing with their shadows.
Yes, and then they always make the right move, and it's just one or two steps, you know, all the time, or maybe one touch, and then, for example, they know when they need to keep the ball and when they need to, and especially when you are on the pitch, you really feel this difference.
Makes you understand the levels to football.
Yeah.
Like you see that top level, and you're just like, okay,
yes, that's how it is.
That's why they're earning multi.
Yes, no, it's true. Because of course, sometimes on television you can see
you
it.
watch and you don't think.
But
wow.
if you're really standing there and see how the passes are going, that's next level.
In terms of teammates or opposition, is there one player that comes to mind that you think is underrated, that could be playing so much higher but maybe hasn't been given the opportunity to?
There's one player I played with, a Moroccan player I played with FC Twente. He actually played for Liverpool, but he never really made it there. He went on loan to Stoke City.
Is that Asaidi?
Asaidi, yes. But that guy, but that's more like maybe one of the best players I've played with at that moment.
Yeah.
Because Suarez was 18, Van Dijk was 18, Blind was 19, Tadic was young, 19. So they were all young, so they had to develop. But I played with him when he was 29 or something.
Okay.
And he was like...
I always remember on FIFA, he was one of my go-to players. 5-star skills on FIFA.
If we played on training 4 against 4 and you were in his team, you won. Always. Because you gave him the ball and he dribbled everywhere and then scored. He was... I think... but it doesn't have to do anything with him, but more about decisions he made in his career. So he went from Liverpool to Dubai, for example, and he could sign with other teams.
Yeah.
But he chose to make that decision. But I think he had so much more potential in his career.
Final question, and I think we'll wrap up with this one. When you look back at your career, are you happy with it? Or are there moments where you think you could have done more, possibly?
No, I'm happy. Of course, you can always make different decisions.
When you look in hindsight, everything looks
different. But on the other hand, you don't know how these decisions would be. And I'm a type of person who always thinks like 4 or 5 times about things. So I never do it straight away. So I'm always thinking I had a good thought about it, and this was the decision I made. Yeah. So you cannot look back and what if, or I'm happy.
Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you. It was nice.
This is episode 11. Dan, where can people find you online? What's your Instagram?
Danny _Holla.
Okay, we'll have that on the green screen behind us. Guys, if you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you do drop a like, leave a comment, let me know who else you would like to see on the podcast, and we will see you guys later.
Thank you.